The podcast you're about to hear is part of the Polish-Scottish Heritage Project as one of its many productions which aim to promote a greater awareness of Poland and Scotland's shared heritage. We hope that it encourages you personally to look into the stories of the places, events and people that shape the history we are privileged to share.
My name is Gabi Ingo. On the 31st of October 2013, I had an opportunity to meet Professor Bob Hodgart. He is an academic with strong ties to Poland, a passion for history, and many interesting stories to tell.
I'm basically an urban geographer. I started going to Poland sort of mid-1970s. I retired in 2007, and since then I still do research a bit, but I've tried to learn a bit more about Polish history. And my wife is Polish, and we've been married for 22 years. When we got married, because her job was at University of Warsaw, my job was here, we agreed we'd have two homes, her flat in Warsaw, my flat here. I would try to go to Warsaw as often as I could, but that wasn't always as often as I'd have liked, because we had all these MSc students to look after in the summer. And Marisha would try to come here when she could.
Bob has spent his life traveling between Scotland and Poland. Particularly during the communist era, each trip brought new experiences and observations.
I should say, before I say anything else, my Polish is very rudimentary. And that's partly because my wife speaks such excellent English, my stepdaughter speaks such excellent English, the Polish geographers I interact with speak very good English. So when I'm in Poland, I don't get much chance to speak Polish, except when I'm doing the shopping or, travelling by taxi. Now, because my Polish is very rudimentary, that limits my insight, my understanding, my sensitivity to Polish cultural things. So I'm very aware that to really engage properly with another culture, you need to know the language.
Despite not having the grasp of the language which he would like, Bob didn't let this deter him from immersing himself in Polish culture.
So from all my years of contact with Poles in Poland, I have a very great respect and admiration and affection for Poland, for Polish people. Things that come very quickly to mind, Polish hospitality, if you're a visitor. In the early first years, I was going there as a visitor to this country behind the Iron Curtain. And our media gave us stereotypes of what the communist world was like. It was very, it was kind of influenced by George Orwell's novel 1984, and everything was kind of very controlled and monolithic and totalitarian, and people would be afraid to associate with you and speak your minds. And the Poland I encountered was so totally different from that. It was a Poland of Polish people. Okay, they might be in this rather repressive communist society. The media might be a bit controlled, but as you travelled around Poland, talking to people, meeting other academics, going to conferences, Polish people would, with some restrictions, would say what they thought. They would criticise the system. They would seem to be speaking their minds. And so they were behaving as if they were in a much freer country in some respects than the political structures would make a Westerner think. So that's the first thing to admire, the fact that Polish people in this communist system were kind of behaving as if, they weren't intimidated.
But one thing that surprised him the most was the willingness of Polish people to offer help to total strangers. During one of Bob's many interesting anecdotes, he told me about one particular trip from Warsaw back to Edinburgh.
I was setting out to drive back from Warsaw to Edinburgh, and I had trouble with my back. To alleviate the back pain, I was having to stop about every hour and walk around and do back exercises for 5 minutes. Nearing Poznan, maybe about 50, 60 kilometres from Poznan, I decided to pull off the main road, drove off maybe about 300-400 metres beyond the village. I started doing my exercises. And I thought, I hope I'm not parking on somewhere I shouldn't be parking or doing anything I shouldn't be doing. I saw a man coming out of the farmhouse in the village, and he walked up towards the car, and I thought, gosh, I could be in trouble. He said hello, and he asked me where I was going to. And kind of the first thing that came to mind was, do Berlin. I'm going to Berlin. And once I'd said it, I thought, gosh, maybe that wasn't a good thing to say, because that could make me German. And this is Western Poland, this is Wielkopolska, and probably one of the worst things to be in Wielkopolska is German, right? And this was 1985. And he looked at me and he said, my family are sitting down to dinner, to obiad. We would be very pleased if you would come and join us, have dinner with us. But when I thought about it, I thought, this is very impressive. If he's made a guess at where I'm from, I'm probably German.
Being welcomed so openly into the farmer's home for dinner, despite Bob's nationality, came as a great surprise. As it turned out, this was just one of many occasions where Bob was given a taste of Polish hospitality.
I can tell you many stories about Polish hospitality and the Polish proverb, gość w domu, Bóg w domu.
This roughly translates as, a guest in your house brings God to your home. Bob went on to tell me more about his experiences with Poles.
A lot of circumstances where Polish people are more polite and courteous and helpful to strangers than I think British people are, or Scottish people are. And one of them, that incident with the farmer, that was one unique incident. But every day I'm in Warsaw, every day I'm getting on the tram. Now I have an artificial leg, right leg amputated 1980 above the knee, accident. So when I get on the tram, the technique is I put my left foot up, which is, that's my good leg, and then I bring my right leg up to the same level. So there's usually, in the old trams anyway, there's 3 steps. Now, I can predict with at least 80% certainty, when I'm getting onto a tram in Warsaw, by the time I just need to get to the second step, somebody will have seen me getting onto the tram, and clearly I have some kind of disability, and they will jump up out of their seat and offer me a place to sit. I call it the 2-step rule. As soon as I get to the second step, I'm offered a seat. And something similar happens on buses. I'm not sure that people here are so quick to spot this person getting on who's maybe a little bit disabled and, and offer to help. Maybe it's reserve. You don't interact with strangers so readily. When we get the trams in Edinburgh, I'll maybe do a rigorous study.
Bob told me a story of another trip from Warsaw to Poznań, when he was travelling by train.
Got into the train with, 6 or 7 other people in the carriage. We got talking, mixture of my awful Polish and some French and their English, and we talked a bit, and some of them were making sort of critical remarks about the communist system. I thought was interesting in 1977 to a stranger. And then when we got near Poznan, one of them said, "Do you have somewhere to stay in Poznan?" And I said, yes, because if you don't have somewhere to stay, you're welcome to come and stay with us. Now, that wouldn't happen in a British train. People are always inviting you for supper and where you discuss things, everything. So my experience, okay, it might be particular to being an academic, I don't know, but that Poland from the 1970s onwards was a very sociable, open society.
Bob and I chatted for hours about Scottish and Polish history, and our conversation ended with thoughts for anyone who has reservations about experiencing new cultures.
In my generation, in the 50s and 60s, quite a strong idea around in Britain that the British way of doing things is, usually the best way. Maybe that's part of the insularity. Maybe it's got something to do with the British Empire and the prestige of the empire. It would be interesting to know whether Polish people still find this in Britain. But if anybody does find this, I have a suggestion to make. Try eating a standard British dish of scrambled eggs, and then get somebody who knows how to do it to cook simple Polish jajecznica for you. And, tell me which you think is better, okay?
This project would not have been possible without the support of our sponsors, including the Consulate General of the Republic of Poland in Edinburgh, and the enthusiasm and hard work of our project volunteers, for which we are extremely grateful.